to 20 though, it's fine.
It's only 5. Okay, it is April 22nd, 2024, 6 p.m. on the second floor of City Hall for a common council meeting. Media has been notified, agenda's been posted. Clerk, please take the roll call.
David Holt.
Here.
Stephen Jopek.
Here.
Luke Kramer.
Here.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Here.
Gerald Anderson.
Here.
Thomas Barnett.
Here.
Bob Luter.
Here.
Leanne Felton.
Here.
Chris Hannes.
Here. We do have quorum. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to number 4, which is public comment. I have Michael.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Miller. I'm here on behalf of the City Ethics Committee. The last time I spoke to you as council was 2 months ago when we urged the adoption of a city ethics code, which I thank you all for signing when you were all sworn in for your new terms last week. I just wanted to give the council a quick update of some other work product that we had in the pipeline. At the next meeting, we plan to present an updated City of Rhinelander ethics interest statement that encompasses more than just like the business interests that people have in town. And the other item is that we've made progress on discussion for a council level ethics training to be led by City Attorney Steve Sorensen. We're still working out the timeline and the language on both of those, but it was advised that you all would appreciate a heads up of what would be coming down the pipeline, so here I stand. If there are any brief questions I can take at this time, otherwise there'll be more details in your packets for the next meeting. Seeing none, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Jolene.
My name is Jolene Copleen. Thank you all for your time in dealing with this matter. I'm the applicant for the conditional use permit. And I guess I don't have too much new to say other than that regarding my conditional use permit. Twice in meetings, it's been verified that I have met all the conditions for the approval of the permit. In the last meeting, the city attorney confirmed that I had met all the conditions and the permit should not be denied. There was a couple of conditions placed on it, and it was approved. As far as I know, nothing has changed from that. That should not allow me to have the permit. Again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to moving on with this process.
Thank you. I have Josh Camilleri.
Good evening. I just wanted to give you guys an update. Back in, I believe, February, I stood here and asked for your support. I applied for a grant through the opioid settlement. I asked originally for $10,000. We just got word the state actually awarded us $22,676, so we can move forward with our recovery coach for the next year. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have Norma.
Thank you for your time. My name is Norma Dicus Pennycuff, and I'm one of the 2 artists working on the bench sculpture to be housed at Hodag Park this summer. My art studio is in ArtStart, and despite my southern accent, I have called the Northwoods home for 12 years. I feel that while our application addresses physical concerns, it may not address the larger question of why. As a mom who raised 2 children locally, I've witnessed kids suffering from lack of mental health resources. As a granddaughter to 2 grandparents who lived until their 90s, I've seen what social isolation does to our elders. Healthcare, and specifically mental health care, is a huge issue in America, but what can community members do to address it? This conversation is already happening nationally. Thanks to the Arts for Everybody campaign, Rhinelander is one of 18 sites nationally chosen to take on this question and participate in deeper research happening through the University of Florida. In a way, Rhinelander is a test site. If we mix arts, community health providers, and local government, how will our communities benefit? Whit Siasoko and I were the artists selected by ArtStart to see what change we could foster in our community. We've worked with a fantastic group of people from Marshville Clinic, local government, and community health partners to help us design this project. We hope it reflects community voices in a tangible way to let others know they aren't alone in their concerns and feel valid in their struggles. We also hope it shines a light on the best part of small town life, community that is there for each other no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Whit.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Thank you for hearing our application. I'm with Norma Pennicuff Dykes, and we're here to present the sculpture. We're not here to present it. We're actually just speaking on behalf of it. I just wanted to give you a little background information. I drove here from Minneapolis. I'm an artist. I'm working with Art Start, and I found it really important to be here in person. I wanted to be online, but I wanted to meet you all in person. And we've been working on this sculpture for the last couple of years, and it began with a group of high school students that lost a friend to suicide, and this is how this project began. You might know it through the Over It group, their youth group, that basically they lost their friend Stefan, who skateboarded, and they asked the council for some money to look at a potential skate park. And by working with them, we saw that there's a real connection between, mental health and social isolation, and in particular the community here in Rhinelander. And so we started on this workshop. Excuse me for that. We started on like, how can we touch upon these with art? And as a community-based artist, I'm a painter and drawer, but I know that art can play a big role in addressing community issues, and a lot of my work speaks to that. And here in Rhinelander, we know it can address the issues of suicide, social isolation, and in generally bringing people together. It's not just about youth, it affects all people in the Rhinelander community. As you might know, this has affected tons of people here. But just a little background, the workshops are a series of workshops that we've been doing, and it really asks the questions, what would you say to somebody that you've lost connection with? And through this, we've talked to hundreds of people, and we're going to continue that through June. And these will be actually embedded in a bench, and it's a sound bench. You can touch it. It's a thing that you have to touch in order to hear. Much like AirPod technology, you're the only one that can hear that sound. So it's a very unique opportunity. It's going to be placed in Hodag Park. It's a beautiful setting where you can actually just relax and reflect upon, your social isolation, but also connect with others. The bench is there for many people to sit on. So I wanted to thank you for considering our proposal, and if you have any questions, I'm here. Thanks again. My name is Whit Siasoko. Thanks.
Thank you. Was there anyone else for public comment? Did any of the alders have any public comment they'd like to share? Good. Okay, moving on to number 5, mayor's comments. So the only comment I have is, as probably most of you are aware, as of last Friday, our citywide Facebook page is down. We're working with Facebook to bring that back up and live, hoping to have it available as soon as possible. So that's pretty much the only comment I have. The clerk's office has been working, making that a priority. Moving on to number 6, administration report. Mr. Patrick?
Thank you, Mayor Hannes. So just a couple things I wanted to touch on real quick. Obviously, as everybody can see, the street reconstruction projects have started again. Last week, we had a meeting, town hall type of meeting. In your packet is a map showing when these things are starting and when we're looking to have them done. I believe Mark's out there, Mark Barden, the engineer from Town and Country. But wanted to make sure everybody had this. Unfortunately, it is on Facebook, so that's not helping anybody right now, but it's also on our website too. Another thing, just to kind of give a heads up, and going to point at Mark Barden again, and staff is doing a great job here. In your packet, we received a letter from WisDOT saying that we received funds for LRIP, Local Road Improvement Program. So good job by Mark and everybody here. So we're going to be able to pave some streets with this. Menominee is one of the ones that we've put down. The one problem you'll see with the letter at the top is it says the Honorable Austin Zarda, which was a little off-putting. So sorry, Austin. And the one last thing I want to remind everybody is the citywide cleanup on the 17th and 18th of May. That's coming up for all the junk you have in your garage and you have in your basement and everywhere else. This is the time to get rid of it. So if anyone has any questions, you contact Justin Ernst, our streets foreman. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or anything for his report? Okay, not seeing. Moving on to number 7. So this is an appeal on a decision that was done at the Planning Commission level. As you guys know, I chair that committee, so I will not be running this part of the meeting based on that. Normally, we would have the council president run it, and at this point, Ms. Mikulowski is also a member that made the decision on that, as well as Ms. Felton. So I would recommend that we have our city attorney run the appeal process based on the mayor and council president currently are not, there would be a conflict. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts or concerns. Nope. So Steve, it's all you.
May I ask a question to Ms. Copland? I may possibly be a relative of hers, so I think I should either make that very well known or recuse myself from any decisions made on that.
The question becomes, the question will become, do you think you can render an impartial decision despite the fact that you have this familiar relationship?
I do, because I did not know it until she came up to the mic.
Okay. As long as you do not believe that it would affect your decision, you can certainly sit as a member of the Board of Appeals.
Thank you.
Thank you for disclosing. So what will, well, unless the council has objection. Okay. Seeing no, we're going to start then. This is under the municipal code of the city of Rhinelander, section 5.07.240, which is the Board of Appeals. Under subsection 3, it talks about having a public hearing. First of all, I would note that the appeal was filed in a timely manner. It was reviewed by the zoning office and was reviewed by myself, and we found that the appeal was in order, so we're having this hearing tonight. So before you tonight is the appeal of a decision that was made to grant a conditional use permit. And I think you're all aware of that. I'm not going to read the materials. It's in your material. You should be aware of it. I would note for the record that the mayor and the other 2 members, I think, of the council that were serving on the board or the planning commission will not be participating. They may still be sitting in their chairs, but they're not going to be participating in the meeting this evening or the appeal this evening, because they would obviously have a conflict of interest since they're the ones that voted in favor of this. And I think everybody understands that. The procedure for the public hearing, which is called for under the statute, would be that the applicant or the appellant in this case would be able to make a presentation to the board. And the board in this case is the city council, who sits as the Board of Appeals on questions involving conditional use permits. Now, would the council, now this is a direct question to the council, would the council want to have a member of the plan commission give a presentation as to what the conditional use permit was? If they do, we'll have, I've already known that the zoning administrators here also, we do have the president of the plan commission, who's sitting here as the mayor, could disclose what had been discussed. That's really up to the council. Otherwise, we can proceed with the applicant, in this case, the person that has filed the appeal, and the materials that are in your material. Yes, sir.
I think that it would be prudent to have at least one of the members of the Plan Commission be able to weigh in and even...
Well, they're going to weigh in. You have to understand that under the law, the Plan Commission is presumed to have done correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to the appellant and this person, the person that filed the appeal, to tell you what they did wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the Plan Commission will have the opportunity to say, no, we didn't do that wrong, and here's why. Okay. I'm just saying right now, do you want to know anything more than was in your packet with regard to the actual conditional use permit? Now, that's the question before you right now. Dave?
I think a brief summary would be good.
Okay, I'll ask Veronica to come forward then and tell what the permit was that was granted by the Plan Commission.
Good evening. So Ms. Copeland did apply for a conditional use permit for a tourist house, and that is renting out her house for 7 or less days. She does meet all the performance standards under the tourist house ordinance of 5.07.304, allowable uses in residential and open space zoning district for a tourist house. Those performance standards, if you'd like, I can read them. She did meet them. I believe this appeal isn't upon the performance standards of that conditional use permit, but rather upon words that were spoken between some board members after the approval. Kind of in between. It was an approval, then there was some conditions set forth, and in the middle, there was a statement made about one of the current properties having a conditional use permit that was zoned R1, which is single-family dwelling. That property is not zoned R1, it is an R2. All current properties that hold a conditional use permit with the city of Rhinelander are R2 properties, which is 1 and 2 family dwellings. And there is one other within the B2 district. And so the appellants would like to speak to you regarding that comment that was made. Any questions?
Thank you. Now it's the opportunity of the applicant to outline for you, the city council, sitting as the Board of Appeals, what they believe was the action that was taken by the Plan Commission that would be in contradiction or in violation of the code. Would you please have your spokesman come forward and introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Caraba, and as Veronica had mentioned, there was some discussion during the meeting that had an incorrect statement. One of the commissioners had asked if there was a conditional use permit that had been applied for that wasn't where a property was zoned R1 that had been approved for. And the answer given during that discussion was yes, and so that was incorrect. The process then went on, and again, it was approved with the 3 conditions. I am not here to say that approving it was incorrect. That is not why I'm here. The 3 conditions that were given to this cup were: a cup is up for yearly review of compliance to cup conditions. Cup only applies to current owner of 1240 Woodland. When the property is sold, the cup expires. And the last one, only a single family can rent the property in keeping with R1 zoning. After the meeting, and I'm going to, our appeal is based on around Z, or number 3, letter C, only a single family can rent the property. I spoke with 2 other commissioners after the meeting, and they both made some interesting comments. One was I explained why we were appealing because of what was said at the meeting, and one commissioner said, well, we might have had more discussion based on that. The second one made the comment of, well, it brings up additional points of we would like to see additional guidance from the city council towards these tourist homes, because the way things are outlined, it leaves up too much for interpretation. They would like to see some guidance from the city. And so I said, okay, well that's interesting, and that's what I would like to discuss a little bit based on that information that was said incorrect moving forward. So the bullet point that says only a single family can rent through the property in keeping with R1 zoning, we are asking that it says any stay at said home not to be less than 7 days. The reason I asked that is the packet that I had dropped off to each of you on page 1, you can see that is the City of Rhinelander and the zoning and land use. And you can see the arrows that are zoned for R1, single family residential. And in the bottom right, you can see the addresses that were approved, and Veronica confirms that none of them are R1s. They are all R2s except for one B2. The next page is the Town of Minocqua zoning map. And this is where it was really good to hear. I spoke with the Town of Minocqua, Robin, the town clerk, and I asked, how long have you been working with conditional use permits for the Town of Minocqua? And she has been working with them since the inception of their ordinance back in 2017. So back in 2017, they have put theirs in place. And on the next page after the map of the Town of Minocqua, it says no person may contain, operate, or offer a short-term rental for less than 7 consecutive days. I asked her, how many have they approved since receiving CUP applications back in 2017? And they have approved hundreds. And of those hundreds, only 2 have been revoked because they were in a single-family residence zoned R1, and they were renting them out for less than 7 days. So since then, they have revoked those 2 permits for those properties. She said, otherwise, it has gone exceptionally well. The procedure has gone really nicely, and Oneida County, and before I get to Oneida County, I did ask her why. I said, why are R1s requiring a stay of 7 days? And she said, those neighborhoods are single-family residences. There aren't any businesses, but it creates less disturbance for the families that live in the neighborhood, so that way you don't have a constant influx of new people going back and forth into this property. And they found that to be very important. Oneida County reached out to the Town of Minocqua when they started receiving conditional use permits. And Oneida County then adopted the Town of Minocqua and their ordinance that any zoned property that's R1, except with the Oneida County, and that is in your next page as well. You see the Oneida County map. And then there's states, a tourist rooming house shall meet the following minimum requirements. Tourist rooming house rentals of less than 6 days are prohibited in the following zoning districts. And district number 2 for them is single-family residences.
I'm going to interrupt you just a second. The allegation that I think you're saying is suggesting the Plan Commission violated the code by utilizing a condition that used the phrase R1. Is that what your contention is?
No, it is based on that the incorrect information was given. It stopped any further discussion about adding a condition that would...
Okay, so what you're suggesting is the Plan Commission was misled by the comment someone made that this was in an R1 district? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay. And your suggestion is that that comment influenced the people to vote for this? Is that correct?
It adjusted or it stopped the conversation of a possible condition coming forward. Not that it was being denied or anything like that. It was just that a possible condition that could have been on or put.
So, again, I'm not trying to stop you, but I'm trying to, because all the discussion of the Town of Minocqua, the county, that's immaterial. I mean, that really is.
I'm just making.
Yeah, I know. So I'm trying to get to what the mistake was that was made by the Plan Commission. And the mistake was, as I understand you telling me, the mistake was that they mentioned R1, and that stopped the discussion. Is that correct?
They asked specifically if there were any other properties that were zoned R1 that have been approved for a conditional use permit.
Right.
That was a specific question, and the answer was yes, and that is not correct.
Okay. And was this property R1?
This property that they have applied for is R1. This is the first conditional use permit that is being applied for in R1.
Okay. And your suggestion was that if they had known there were no other previous R1s, the council, or the Plan Commission would have voted differently.
Correct.
So you're suggesting it was misrepresented, it was not corrected at the meeting, and therefore you think that it should either be modified or go back for further discussion. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I'll button it up. Thank you. So, again, these other properties are, or these other, the townships, the county, Vilas County included, has adopted the 7-day stay. Policing the third item, again, the third item being only a single family can rent the property in keeping with R1 zoning. Our commission understood that this is an important area, and they added these conditions, which no other cup permit has this particular condition. While it's in spirit, it makes sense. How do you police it? Does that person that is renting out the home have to provide to the commission that these are only single families that are renting it? Only is one car allowed to stay there? So the family has to, we don't know how that can be policed. While in theory, it makes sense, but policing it, I don't know or understand how that can be there. So again, I'm asking to revise the condition to be stays less than 7 days. It has been proven effective by the town of Minocqua, Oneida County, Vilas County. To go along with this, I encourage the city council to look at our current ordinance moving forward.
Again, you're going to a whole different topic. That's a very appropriate topic if you were asking the council at a public meeting to consider changing the ordinance. We have to really just talk about this planning commission action.
Sounds good. I just understood. So that's the condition I'm asking, is that we revise to no less than 7 days. We are the Northwoods. We look out for each other. It reminds me of over in Door County, there's Fish Creek, Sister Bay, Egg Harbor. They all have an ordinance that look out for each other that says no business that is a chain food restaurant can come into this area. Each township could have done something completely different, but they didn't. They looked out for each other. So this is the same concept that other townships are having this on anyone that is zoned R1. I'm not asking to deny, I'm just asking that that condition be amended to something that makes sense, and we are, again, the Northwoods. We want to be protecting each other and being around each other, so that is it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak in favor of the appeal? Does anyone want to speak in favor of the appeal? This is a public hearing, so the public has a right. Does anyone want to speak in favor of the appeal? Did my mandatory 3 times? Okay, now, this would be the opportunity for the Plan Commission or a member of the Plan Commission to make a statement, because the appeal, as it's been stated, is that there was a misrepresentation at the Plan Commission meeting that allegedly would have changed or could have changed the vote of the members of the Plan Commission. That's what I understood. That's why I wanted to clarify what that statement was. So now would be the opportunity of the Plan Commission to say, we may have done wrong, or we didn't do anything wrong. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but the Plan Commission should now speak, or some member of the Plan Commission. Go ahead.
So as the Common Council knows, I chair the Planning Commission, and to be honest, I'm the one who made that comment. That was based off a property on Marshall Street, which is a very small house. Based on that, I assumed, which is completely my fault, of it being R1 because the size of that house cannot suit a 2-family residency. From the point of approving a CUP permit for an R1 versus R2 is irrelevant per our current code. My belief and knowledge is it's approved to have it no matter R1 or 2. Really doesn't make a difference. As far as conditions we could put on said properties, with this being the first R1, there are conditions that can be put on it or not. That's up to, at that time, the Planning Commission, and then they have the right to appeal. If you look at the map handed, that kind of shows the neighborhoods where we currently have CUP permits, and you can see there's been multiple. Personally, I would argue a lot of those are in very similar neighborhoods. It might not be zoned on our map, as R1 or R2, but from a characteristic of homes, families, they're very similar. So from my point of view, I think it's irrelevant. I would also make the argument that this CUP permit is has the most oversight by city government. All the CUP permits prior to this was pretty much saying you're going to follow all of the city statutes and state statutes. This one, we gave a 1-year probation period to see what may come about it after 1 year. We also said it couldn't change ownership. Where every other CUP permit, if you sell your property, that lives on with the new owner. So this one has more protections for the neighborhood as well as the residents to ensure high quality for not only the CUP as well as the neighborhood. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Okay, anyone else want to speak in opposition to the appeal? This is a public hearing now. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to the appeal? Anyone else want to speak in opposition to the appeal? Any final comments by anyone? Yes, ma'am. You have to come up to the mic, and you have to say your name and your address, please.
Sorry about that. My name's Yvette Hiddle, and I just want to make one more
Your
comment.
address, ma'am?
Pardon?
Your address, please?
1227 Woodland Drive. Okay. I just want to make one comment into what the mayor and the president of the commission had said, and that is that I respectfully disagree that the neighborhoods are the same, that the other CUP permits were addressed as the R1 neighborhood that we live in. The reason we are zoned R1 and the reason these other neighborhoods are zoned R2 are for a very specific reason, and I think our neighborhood is very different personality. We're closer to schools, we're farther away from water features, there are no businesses near us. So it is a very different neighborhood, and I just want to emphasize that. And also remind everyone that a petition was submitted with 42 signatures from Woodland Drive with concerns about this being zoned, about this conditional permit. And we're not asking to remove all, CUP permits throughout the town at all. We're not stating that. We're only stating that this one, if it's allowed, that it be consistent with Oneida County and Minocqua in that it's 6 days or more that it would be allowed to be rented. So we're not asking for a complete restriction.
So for clarification, you're asking that this council adopt a new standard that's not part of the standards that exist right now?
Correct. We're asking that they adopt a standard consistent with Minocqua and Oneida County.
Yeah, I understand. So you understand that they don't have the right to do that right now. They can't change the ordinance right now. They can certainly do that in the future.
Correct.
But you understand that they can't change the ordinance because that wasn't the ordinance the Planning Commission made their decision based on. You'd like to see it change in the future.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to comment? Going once. Anybody else want to comment? Anybody else like to comment? Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing, and now we open it up to the council, other than those members of the council that are on the Plan Commission, to discuss this. So, Mr. Jopek.
Just clarifying, what they're asking for, and in this case, we can't do it like you just mentioned, we can't change the code or anything like that, but just to clarify, what they were checking on is not that the council would vote differently, but that there might be additional conditions added at the planning meeting, knowing that this is an R1 residential area, not an R2, correct?
Yeah, what I understood the gentleman to say is that there was a misstatement made at the meeting that this was not the first R1, and that there's a belief that if that misstatement had not been made, the Plan Commission may have very well made a different decision. And so if you find that that error of making that statement was such that you reasonably believe that that was a basis for the Plan Commission making their decision, then you have the right to, but you only have a right to do three things. You can accept the decision of the Plan Commission, affirm it. You can deny it, which means there's no CUB, or you can modify it. But I don't think anybody's asking you to modify it. And the interesting thing is, I heard several times they're saying, we don't want you to deny it. But that's really your only three choices under the law, is you can affirm it, deny it, or you can modify the condition.
And a modification would be adding a condition to whatever the conditional use permit, or are we talking some other kind of modification?
No, you could add a condition if you wish.
That's what I'm hearing from them.
Or you could take one away too.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from them is that they're not, they're not saying to deny it, but they are thinking that the Planning Commission would possibly, again, hindsight's 20/20, they would have possibly added additional conditions that would have restricted that. I'm of a mind, like, I'm kind of struggling with this whole R1, R2 thing in the sense that I don't really like the precedent it sets that if we say, well, their community is about the same thing, and R2, R1, then at that point get rid of R2, because what's the point? But also, like I said, hindsight's 20/20, and so if we can go back, and the concern is that Planning Commission didn't have the full details, is this something that we can kick back to Planning Commission to, like, it is on us, and they, like, that's a moot point?
Yeah, the decision you would have to make is you'd have to make a decision that you believe the Plan Commission, based on the materials, made a inappropriate decision given the evidence that they had. Tom?
So, this specific property is in my district, and I was at the Planning Commission meetings and understood the process, and although I do share some of their concerns, my constituents, I think they also, as well as I do, understand that everything was followed to current ordinance and practice, and there's really nothing that can be done or should be done at this point. From what I gathered out of it, they're asking us to look at our current ordinances, compare them to Minocqua and Oneida County, and see if there's something that we can adjust in our current ordinances that would require a 7-day or more stay. And I believe that's what they're asking for. So I personally think that would be great to look at that ordinance specifically, as well as some other ordinances, and make the proper adjustments if needed.
Any other comments by the council? Gerald?
I think it's just a hypothetical that the Plan Commission might have acted differently if they had better information. The truth is, our zoning map, as between R1 and R2, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and one of the chops we approved is right across the street from a whole block of R1 houses on Wisconsin Avenue. As was stated, some of the ones in R2s are very nice neighborhoods, and as a inveterate user of Airbnb, I have stayed in many places that were in very nice neighborhoods, and the whole point of this kind of rental is to be able to rent for one night or 2 nights or a few nights. If we're going to try to go with the county's 7-day thing, that totally changes the whole concept, and I don't think we need to do that. We may want to look at whether it's appropriate in R1, but
yeah, and again, Gerald, the concept today is, did the Planning Commission make a mistake? Did they have an error?
I see no evidence that they didn't follow the ordinance as it is now.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I agree with Gerald's conclusion that they didn't make any errors. I have a question for clarification from something you said earlier. You had given 3 options to deny, to approve, or affirm the Planning Commission's decision, and the third to modify. But I was a little confused. Is adding the condition of the 6 or 7, I heard both, days minimum, something that the council has the authority to do right now? Because I wasn't clear if you were saying earlier that we don't have that, or simply saying that we don't have the authority right now in this moment to address the ordinance issue.
What I'm saying is that unless you believe that there was substantial evidence given at the time of the Planning Commission that would have justified a 7-day period, and it wasn't considered by the council, that you can't modify it to do that.
Understood. Yeah, so in that case, I think I do fully agree with Gerald, and oftentimes, oftentimes this is exactly why we revisit ordinance, but we can't sort of retroactively impose that on somebody who applied for something, or at least I don't feel that we can retroactively impose that on somebody who did everything right, and then in terms of their application, that if we want to open up that discussion for future, that sounds great. We should do that. But for this, it sounds like that's not the Plan Commission could have discussed that outside of the comment made.
Any other comments from the council? The council has to make a decision at this point if there are no other comments, and the decision that has to be made is really a threefold decision. Number one, you have to say, did the Planning Commission lack jurisdiction to grant the permit in the first instance? There's been no discussion that would suggest that's not true, so I think we can take that as a given. Anyone disagree with that? The second issue you have to make is whether or not the Planning Commission made an error. In other words, they didn't follow the material that was presented. They went outside of the four corners of the ordinance, and they added something that wasn't part of the ordinance, something they had no authority to do. Is anyone suggesting? The appellants didn't suggest that, but anyone? Then our findings of fact would indicate that they did stay within the four corners of their ability and that the decision was based upon the ordinance. The third question, and the one that was raised here tonight, was there substantial evidence to believe that the council acted in good faith, didn't act arbitrarily and capriciously when they granted the conditional use permit based on the evidence that had been presented. And one of those pieces of evidence, as admitted to by one of the Plan Commission members, was a misrepresentation as to it being in an R1 district versus an R2, well, being in an R1 district, that there was another property that wasn't an R1 district. The mayor did testify, or excuse me, our Planning Commission chair did testify that he didn't believe that had an influence. I will tell you that the ordinance doesn't distinguish between R1 and R2. But if you find as a council that that was a significant factor, that based on that the the Plan Commission acted arbitrarily and capriciously, then you would have the basis to deny the CUP, and those are your choices. You have those three things are what you have to look at. Steve?
These Plan Commission approvals for CUP addresses are all R2. Have there been previous applications that were for R1 that there were considerations made on the Plan Commission?
Again,
and I'm not saying using that, I'm curious, is this something, because that could shape, like if the Plan Commission hadn't
Steve.
faced R1s before, they might have asked additional questions.
Okay, we can go to the zoning administrator and ask her if there's ever been, but the bigger question is, was that question posed at the Plan Commission meeting, and was it discussed at the Plan Commission meeting? Veronica? You have to go to the mic, please. I'm sorry.
My apologies. That question was not stated. The only question that came about being in R1 was when it was presented by the mayor.
Okay.
This is not it was.
Right, and I'm not trying to argue it. I'm just trying to sort out the context of the history of these CUP applications.
And when this is what the problem of being an appellate court is, which is a quasi-judicial body, is you can only deal with the record as it existed at that time.
Yeah.
You can't add things to the record.
Yeah.
So the answer is no, they didn't discuss it.
So the R1 was just brought up out of the blue for no particular reason.
That's what the mayor said. He did it.
Okay.
At least that's the testimony of the mayor.
Yeah, no, I'm not doubting. I'm curious where the R1 comment even comes into that's where I'm just getting a little lost in it. That's
Well, I think the R1 comment comes in from the appellant's point of view, is they're thinking you should treat the two districts differently, that R1 has a different character than an R2. You said it yourself, they're two different districts. But the bottom line is, that goes to, should we change our ordinance in the future between R1, R2, whatever? And the question is, did the Planning Commission inappropriately make their decision based upon the material, or did they make their appropriate decision based upon the evidence that was presented to them?
Okay, thanks. I was just clarifying the R1, R2 statement, that's all. Thank you.
You bet.
Right, so the R1, there were comments about it being an R1 because they wanted to keep the same characteristics as the neighborhood had. So when there was the opposition statements made, that's when the conversation took place.
Gerald?
I'm not totally sure how to phrase this, but because the ordinance does not currently distinguish between R1 and R2, and because it appears that the Plan Commission acted fully in accordance with the ordinance, I move that we deny this appeal in this case.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the appeal. Is there a second?
Joe Peck, second.
There's been a motion, a second. Discussion. Okay, I would ask the clerk to call the roll of those council members that can vote.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Bob Luter.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
The result?
6 ayes.
6 ayes, no nays. The appeal is denied. Now, I am required, or the city is required, and I guess that'll be my job, is to put together what we call findings of fact, conclusions of law, and a decision based upon what the council said this evening. We'll get that out, and once that's out, that will be sent to all the interested parties that are involved, the applicant, the appellant, and to any other interested parties that wish to have a copy of it. That then would start the period of time, if you wish. You still have a right to appeal to the circuit court. It's just so you're aware of that. Well, with that, I think I'm done, and I'm handing the meeting back to the mayor.
Thank you. So moving on to number 8, which is a public hearing. We have none that apply for Common Council. Moving on to number 9, which are presentations. 9A by Northspan regarding the 2024 City of Rhinelander strategic planning. I refer to our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Allie from Northspan. Allie, you ready? All right.
Hi.
So we underwent strategic planning in March. Had department heads out there, had some council members take part via interview and surveys. So also had, I believe it was 302, Allie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that,
You're right.
survey responses from the community. So went really well, really enjoyed it. Allie, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Patrick. Is there a possibility that I could share my screen?
Yeah, should be able to.
All right, great. Let me jump that up here. If I can. Okay. It's a pleasure to see everybody again.
Can you make her co-host? There you go.
Great. Hope everyone can see this and that you can hear me.
Yep.
It was really a pleasure to work with the strategic planning team, all of the department heads, some of the city councilors. It was really fun. The mayor was there. We had a great group, and they put in a lot of work. So I'm very pleased to be able to present the strategic plan for you. I sent a draft to Patrick, and I believe he sent that out in your packets. There are a few edits that we still need to make, so I'll make sure that Patrick gets the complete plan very soon. So first, I just want to walk through our process steps and how we got to where we are. We started back in January of 2024, collecting background information and creating a demographic and economic analysis of the Rhinelander area. Throughout February, we conducted community and strategic planning team surveys. As Patrick said, we had 302 community members fill out the survey, which was an excellent, excellent response. So thank you for all of the work that you did in getting that out. We also conducted stakeholder interviews with staff and city council members. And then on March 19th and 20th, my colleague and I came down for a 2-day workshop where we did all kinds of things to put together the strategic plan, including creating vision, mission, and core values, and a focused implementation workshop, which was meant to put some oomph behind the actions and to put that on a timeline so that you've got some really great actionable things that you can work on. Next, we did strategy documentation. That's what we've been working on this month, where we put everything together, sent it to a designer, and here we are presenting to the City Council and the community, and then we will plan a debrief meeting with the strategic planning team in May. So that's how we got to where we are. So here's just some pictures of our strategic planning workshops. Thanks to everyone who was involved. We were out at the golf course. It was a beautiful facility, and we just had a really nice time working through all of the strategic directions with the team. So I'm pleased to present the vision and mission for the City of Rhinelander. The vision is to be the hub of the Northwoods, inspiring the next generation of hodags. The mission is we provide excellent service to foster growth and development, creating a welcoming, desirable place to thrive. Core values: we are inclusive. We prioritize the active participation, representation, and respect of all community members, regardless of their backgrounds, abilities, or perspectives, fostering a welcoming and equitable environment for all. We are resourceful. We effectively and creatively utilize available resources to overcome challenges and achieve our goals. We are proud. We share a sense of collective achievement, identity, and appreciation for our community's heritage, accomplishments, and values. Go Hodags! Hodags showed up a lot in our planning. And we are safe. We are committed to creating an environment where all residents feel protected from harm. And next, we came up with 6 strategic directions. I'm not going to read through everything. I'm sure that the strategic plan will be made available for the public, but I will go through briefly the strategic directions. First one is identifying and prioritizing revenue sources and uses. Action steps here include improving fee collection tools, identifying funding sources, developing processes for ordinance updating, and creating capital improvement plans for every department. Strategic direction 2, utilizing technology for external communication. This strategic direction recognizes the importance of being able to use external communication to work with the community, to strengthen community relations, and promote informed civic engagement. Some of the action steps include updating the phone system, uniting city departments on one server, basically just making communication easier, more accessible, and modernizing things. Strategic direction 3, investing in training for city staff and officials. This strategic direction wants to cultivate a workforce equipped with tools, methodologies, and best practices. Also prioritizing continuous learning and skill building initiatives. Action steps here include planning training, identifying cross-training opportunities, creating process manuals, recording training sessions, and doing this with local or low-cost opportunities. Strategic direction 4, expanding recreation opportunities. This direction recognizes the value of all of the wonderful outdoor space that Rhinelander has, and the value of having inclusive and accessible and diverse recreational options. So action steps here are creating a city events calendar, budgeting for ADA equipment, determining ways to link bike and pedestrian pathways to external city trails, those kinds of things, with investing in the recreational amenities that you have in the area. Strategic direction 5, matching staffing to support community growth. This emphasizes the thoughtful allocation of human resources to address challenges and to implement new initiatives, and also to deliver essential services to residents. Action steps here include posting job applications on multiple sites, considering how to be more equitable in benefits and wage structure, updating the wage scale, creating professional development plans, those sorts of pieces. and Strategic Direction 6, Growing and Maintaining Workforce Housing. This direction prioritizes policies and programs that promote sustainable growth and equitable access to housing. Recognizes that it's important for community resilience, economic stability, and to improve residents' overall quality of life. Action steps here include exploring annexation opportunities, reviewing housing ordinances, creating programs for rental housing inspections, providing and publicizing incentives for housing developments. So the main theme here is growing that workforce housing. So after we came up with the strategic directions, this is a little difficult to see, but we put everything on a timeline. All of the actions that I went through are all listed on the timeline here with their start and end date. A lot of the end dates are actually ongoing, but we will likely revisit this in a few years to see what needs to stay and what needs to shift and change. So we've got the timeline. And then we created the priority wedge. These are the priorities that were identified during the strategic planning workshop, the things that really need to happen to catalyze action in other areas. And so these were creating templates that define services, identifying applications to collect fees, exploring low cost and local opportunities for training, exploring annexation opportunities. All of these pieces are kind of the foundation that will catalyze everything else to get moving. And in the strategic plan, you'll see a lot of appendices. We categorized everything that we did and noted all of the meetings that we did and the workshops that we did. So everything, all of the pieces are in the appendix, and you are more than welcome to take a look at those. And if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you. And if you have any questions, I will happily answer them for you now.
Mr. Barnett?
Go Hodags.
Go Hodags.
Well, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Allie.
Okay, going on to 9B, which is a presentation by Brandon regarding a playground and splash pad for Hodag Park. Be page number 109 in your packet.
Evening, everyone, again. So, thank you, Mayor. If you have, actually, could we go to the slide with the picture of the park, please? Kind of like to start there. Thank you. So I'm here on behalf of Kiwanis. About 6 months ago, we had reached out to Patrick and Jeremy Biolo with Parks and said we'd like to be involved in trying to do some type of revamp, if it's at Hodag Park, Pioneer Park, all the above. So discussion started with Hodag Park, and it really took off from there. So the 3 red boxes just are an interpretation of roughly what the size will end up being of the new Hodag Park playground. The largest piece, where the current playground is, will be replaced with a 13,000 square foot playground. And I'll discuss more details about that in a second. The smallest box is, again, these boxes will be together, but just to give you an idea, is a 500 square foot area that will have 4 picnic tables and a large shade. And the third box is a 3,000 square foot splash pad. In talking with Patrick and Jeremy, we discussed if this goes into place, the city has borrowing this next year, and the current bathrooms that are just off towards the bottom of the map could be added to that borrowing to be completely redone. And I will be completely honest, a lot of my donors highly suggest that be involved next year. In further discussion with Patrick and Jeremy, the parking that runs parallel to the lake is looked to be removed, and grass will be placed there for the sake of people that are families that are there either warming up for baseball or different things like that. It's a terrible spot for foul balls, so vehicles shouldn't be parked there anyway, to be honest. And again, with further discussion, we are looking into the current parking where you see all the cars along the baseball field to actually have that widened out And so you can park on both sides and create a better atmosphere so that way kids can go directly into the playground and not play in traffic as much as that comment can be made sometimes. Third, there will be lights that will be going along the playground and the splash pad, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Going back to the playground picture, please. This is the 13,000 square foot playground. Lee Recreation, who has done the playgrounds around the area at the elementary schools, happened to be in town, and Jeff Thompson, I met with him and Jeremy Biolo, and Lee Rec actually put in the initial playground at Hodag Park 30 plus years ago. So when they found out that we were interested in this, they gave us a nice generous discount towards using them. The playground will have a 5-foot walking path all the way around it. The grass within that 5 foot is called, it's a 4-inch rubber turf. So if anybody's been to JoJo's Jungle Gym in Wausau, that playground was built because of a family that had 2 children, and they adopted a son who had ended up having special needs, and he had to be in a wheelchair and could not get around to play with his siblings at any playground. The wheelchair couldn't go through the chips, the rubber, or anything like that. And unfortunately, his diagnosis turned terminal, and his dying wish was to have a playground where he could play with his siblings. He did pass away, but that turned their project into what it was, or what's turned into today. They have a splash pad, kind of a sitting area, and then it goes into little kids and big kids, and they've got very similar foundation, which is called lay and play. It's a 4-inch rubber that is at their playground. The difference between what ours will be and theirs, over at JoJo's Jungle Gym, you have to have a little bit of a crown, so water can run off, of course, but you can have ice buildup. The turf version of this will not have that because it is permeable, so water can actually go through it. With in our current weather, well, minus this last winter, that idea or that possibility will be less likely because you will have actual traction. It won't have the rubber pellets like the dome or like the football field does currently. It's kind of a silica sand feel that's going to be part of it. So with that, there's 2 zip lines, one for anyone that's a little bit younger or of any type of special needs. The second is for small adults, I will not be on that, or other children and things like that. You've got the Hodag going through the river, of course. You have a swing, 8 swings for all abilities. Then moving over, you have the ship and the 2 to 5 play area. Just above that ship is a cool little feature. It's an electronic game. So it actually has an electronic capacitor that you wind, and it has a scoreboard. So someone, if it's a sibling or a parent, can be on one side and same on the other. And as soon as you hit the go button, then lights flash, and whoever hits the most lights wins. So it keeps score. It's kind of a fun little thing. But the 2 to 5 area, what we like about that is the one that has the tube on the left, it has a area where if you're 1 getting to 2, you can actually crawl up and take the slide. So it's a nice little step up before you getting into the ship. Again, kids of ages have all sorts of different confidence, and so it's just a nice little gradual step up into that. Moving into the very large feature is for 5 and up. What I like about this is it has various levels where it had slides. So if you do have that 5-year-old that's playing with their 7-year-old brother or sister or anything like that, they don't have to go all the way up to the top to the 15 and 17-foot slides. You have an area that you can still play and still be confident in your abilities. Within that structure, there is what's a space called a serenity spot. And so for kids that need a moment, there's a touch, feel, shaded area within that structure. Along one of the sides, there is a 8-foot climbing wall. So American Ninja Warrior, I'm sure some of you have seen on TV. It's a 8-foot ramp wall that you can climb up. It does have handholds and things like that. Along to the left, underneath the one shade, you can't quite see, but just like any playground, you need to have noise. So there's the drums, there's little chimes there and things like that. But surrounding the playground, you'll have 6 benches, 4 of which will have shades. From there, let's go to, after the map, please. Perfect. It's a little bit tough to see up on the TV, but in your packet or on your computer, you should be able to see roughly the layout of what I'm going to go into next. So you can see the playground, then you can see the 4 picnic tables, and then you can see the kidney bean shaped splash pad that's there. So Musson Brothers is going to put in 2 walking paths, 2 paths that are going to go from the current walking path along the lake, and then also one from the new parking area as well. So I forgot to mention that. Moving on into the splash pad piece, there's the next page, or next slide, please. Thank you. Here's the kidney bean shape, but what I like, the features on the kidney bean, I'll go into in a second. Those aren't in the proper area, but the reason that this slide is in there, so that way you can see the 4 picnic tables and the shade that's part of, that's gonna be the transition piece between the playground and the splash pad. Then if you go into the next slide, there's the kidney bean shape. Okay, so I'll describe what it basically will do and all that fun stuff, and then we'll get into the real nuts and bolts of it, which is the water, which is always a very good conversation to have. So the kidney bean shape, the child on the left that's pressing that red stem, that is the button to activate the water. The city has the ability to adjust the timing of it from anywhere from 2 minutes up to 10 minutes of runtime per button push. And they can also set the amount of time that the splash pad can actually be operable. So if it's from 11 to 4, 11 to 5, whatever is decided at that point. Or certain days you can just have it as off. You know, if July 4th and there's just gonna be a billion kids and there's gonna be whatever going on, you may not want that operational, so the city can turn it off on whatever days they feel or prefer. Going to the right is an area for smaller children. When you go along the back, you've got an area that's more from the family. The reason it's family is along the back side of it, it's more misters. So if you have a mom or dad that the kid wants you to run through, at least you can kind of stand on the outside and not get completely soaked. Then moving all the way over to the left, you'll have some tree features. One where it has a bucket that slowly fills up and then dumps a giant pile of water on top of the children. So, but lots of sprays, lots of fun features for the children. In discussion with Patrick, Jeremy, and Kurt Johnson, big thing was, what water are we using? How much is it going to use? What's the cost? All the above. So commercial recreational specialists are the ones that are handling the splash pad. They're working hand in hand with Lee Rec. KSW is going to be our general contractor, and so they're handling all the permits and walking through with the DNR with a couple of things that I'll mention shortly. But from the water piece, we looked into to see if we could use the lake. It's literally right there. It's a great water source. However, per the DNR, if you decide to use the lake, because there is a system to use water from the lake, you can't, well, not saying you can't, you are unable to fulfill the requirements of the DNR. The DNR requires that they be tested each day and that you get the results back within a certain time frame, so that way you can find out if there's anything going on with the water. And unfortunately, that's just not possible. The second idea was, okay, maybe we do a private well. Well, you kind of run into the same thing with the DNR testing and results and things like that. So settled on city water. And after discussions with Kurt and everybody, the biggest thing was that with our current situation with the wells, we need to be very aware of that as long as it's under 90 or under 100 gallons per minute, Kurt would be in favor of being able to use the city water. And working with CRS, they said, absolutely, you can dial it up, you can turn it up as much as you want as far as what you need. Because the way it is, it's on, when you hit that button, it's not that the whole thing just goes up with water. It's sequential. So it goes one area over here, so kids have to run to the areas that the water is being used. So just because you're dialing it down doesn't mean you're just gonna get a little bit of a dribble. So that's how that will all work. Just because it's ramped up to 140 gallons per minute doesn't mean more play. It just, again, this is sequential and how that works. So dialing it down underneath 100 is not a problem. The next part is understanding, okay, well, where's the water gotta go? City sewer, or is there other avenues? CRS has reached out, or sorry, KSW reached out to the DNR and confirmed that what the process is for an application to be able to actually have the wastewater go over riprap and into the lake. This isn't the first of its kind to be able to do that, but after discussion with the DNR, it's very encouraging discussions that this is easily something that could be done. So again, we don't have to use the city sewer. And if we had to use the city sewer, we would have to put in a lift station as well. But very encouraging discussions and going very, very well with the DNR in that respect. The other piece, and it was brought up, again, I've met with Patrick, Jeremy, and Kurt multiple times to make sure that we're dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, and making sure that the splash pad fits all regulations. There were changes this past year on splash pads, and the difference between this splash pad that's going in place and others is that this one is called a flow-through. The flow-through means we are not reusing the water. It is going into the lake or lift station, whatever ends up happening. The other is where you get to reuse the water. It gets used and goes through, and those are the changes. And it literally happened at 4 o'clock this afternoon. They spoke with, CRS spoke with Ellen Bruch, her title with the Department of Agriculture. Her title is Environmental Health Technical Specialist for Public Pools and Water Attractions. And there are no changes for any splash pads under 50,000 gallons and that have a flow-through system. All changes are for any type of recirculation system, which is not what this will be, and anything over 50,000 gallons. So we have confirmed with the Department of Agriculture that everything that we will be putting in place will be up to code and up to requirements that are outlined by the state and the DNR and the Department of Agriculture. Moving into the lights. The lights, there will be 6 that will go all the way around the playground. TJ DeWitt will be putting those in. The reason for the lights, so Kiwanis, we've done a couple of different projects, one of them being the Central School basketball court that have the lights on motion sensor. When putting those in place, the plan was to have those shut off at 10 o'clock no matter what's going on at the court or anything like that, because that is curfew and it is school grounds. In talking with Chief Gauthier, Captain Camilleri, and Sheriff Grady Hartman, when it comes to the lights, we're not going to have that shut off at 10. The reason is, if everybody might recall, about 1.5 years ago, there was a gentleman on the swings at Hodag Park with a gun wanting to commit suicide. And the only lights that were there were from the patrol cars, the small street lamps that were along the path, and any lights that they had, as far as at their disposal. So this not only will give the capability of, because in September, October, kids want to play at 5 o'clock at night. It's starting to get dark. So the lights will add additional play to the playground. And at the same time, for the later times, it will provide safety for the officers that go through, that check on. Also, that'll help out with the neighborhood. If all of a sudden the lights go on at 2 a.m. or something like that and someone is driving by, they might say, okay, is something going on or anything like that. And also, it will help with, just vandalism. As we know, with the lights of the Northwoods, we've had plenty of that, unfortunately. So that brings me to Lights of the Northwoods. I've been in discussion with them. They will be part of the playground where there will be additional outlets so they can actually light the playground at night. So that way there's not extension cords everywhere and different things like that, because that's been a problem of extension cords being unplugged or taken or anything like that. So we're making sure that we're connecting the dots and working with everybody in the community that are utilizing Hodag Park currently. From that, the total cost, that's always a big important thing, right, is going to end up being right around $1.6 million. It will probably, when everything is said and done, sorry, let's go to that slide real quick. Yes, so thank you. Going back to the water, currently the city, and Patrick and Mayor, let me know if I'm incorrect in this, it's $2.30 per gallon of water. The information up there is actually at $2.80 because we know that $2.30 is pretty low and it's going to go up at some point in time. So this is at $2.80, which shows that an entire summer, based on the hours, the cost to the city for the water in the splash pad will be roughly just under $7,000 for the entire summer. So again, that depends on how much the city wants to have it operating, how many hours of the day, different things like that. But $7,000 in total, $80,000 in electrical for an entire summer. And at the very bottom, we said, okay, if Jeremy at the parks, if he's got to help winterize it and help get it up and running and things like that, what are roughly the hours that could cost? So that is up there as well. The maintenance is very low key. other than maybe just wanting to keep it nice and clean because it is stainless steel and things like that. CRS suggested to Jeremy different cleaning ways and things like that, so I won't get too far into the details on that. But that's where that piece comes into play. So again, going back to the total price tag of 1.6, probably going to end up falling to 1.5 when everything's done. I have about $780,000 already raised in discussion with businesses and families. I already have that committed towards this project. We have, Kiwanis, we have not gone public with this at all yet. I wanted to be able to come to you with some meat on the bone, with some understanding that there's some serious excitement behind this project, and it's organized, it's put together. We've got the correct people in the correct places to make sure that this is done appropriately and done well. So there's the initial timeline is if I could get to the 1.1 million mark, somewhere in there, which theoretically, again, the folks that have not even committed yet, the people that are in line, we could get to that point. And the playground itself could be put in yet this fall, if I can get to that 1.1 mark. Then the splash pad area could also be prepped. So that way, next spring, the splash pad could be then put in within 6 weeks, and we're off and running. And next spring could be, well, next February, depending on the type of winter we have. But that's the current timeline that we're kind of looking at. Again, very encouraging conversations, and I just wanted to make everyone aware, and if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to.
So I have probably 180 questions.
Absolutely.
I'll narrow it down to a few. Looking at the pictures of the playground, I don't see a whole lot of ADA compliant equipment. I see a lot of equipment for very active young children and a couple of things that might work for our very special needs children of the community. Looking at Pioneer Park's playground, that sadly needs to be redone. Hoping that one of these playground redos would involve a much more concerted effort to let our more at-risk children have the same kind of excitement and play as our well children. Cost of the city, I see is $9,407.45, correct?
That is the quote currently at $2.80 per gallon.
Okay. I'm wondering, I would like to see what the lights that we're going to stay on would look like, because we do have residents that live over there, and I'd hate to see them get the shaft with light nuisance. Oh, go ahead.
Yep. So to talk to that.
Sure.
Yes, so Central School has the same lights.
Okay.
And so when I went through and put in the Central School basketball court, I did ask each of the neighbors if there was any problems or anything like that beforehand, because I also asked, did they want it off at 9? You know, because I wanted to be very aware of that. And they said, nope, as long as it's at 10 and it's good. And I have followed up with them since then, and it's been about 10 years since we've had that. And the city, from my understanding, has never received a complaint in respect to those lights. And so that they'd be the same lights as that.
Okay,
So, yep.
good.
Thank you.
My other question is, has anybody shown this to Tom Giroux? I see a lot of trees that are in the path of this.
So good question. Speaking with Jeremy, these are all the infected trees that will be coming down anyway. Yep.
Great.
Yep,
All right.
From Emerald Ashmore. Yes.
Personally, I see this as a great opportunity to enhance the city. My initial concerns for the water on the splash pad have been put to ease thanks to our water department explaining that they're okay with it. But here we are, I don't know, 2-3 years into trying to get a skate park for these kids that really super need it. And here we are going to take on another project. I like to get something done, then move on to another project. I think shooting this ahead of the skate park is going to send a really, really bad message to the community, because they're going to say, oh, look, because there's this behind it, they get it. But our kids that are really suffering with mental health and want the skate park built, and they've been waiting for 3 years, get the shaft again. That's my only concern. I'm not against this. I'm for it. I think it's a great idea, but I think we need to take on one thing at a time here. I think we need to accomplish something before we take on another project, and that's just my opinion.
Brandon, just to clarify, this project is pretty much the design to build is all done through privately. No different than our Little League fields being updated last year and the year before.
That is correct.
So once it's completed, it would be gifted to the city for ongoing maintenance.
Correct, correct.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, looks like a lot of fun equipment. I wonder if we have any idea about its durability. You know, some of it looks fairly complicated, maybe easy to tangle up or vandalize or whatever. Any ideas on the ongoing expensive maintenance?
A good question, thank you. So the playground itself is similar to a 30-year lifespan. The 4-inch rubber turf, along with the playground equipment, all have a 30-year lifespan. Of course, you know, things can break after 20 years, or there's nothing to predict there. But as far as the warranty and everything that's on there, everything's including the splash pad. The features are going to be in that 20 to 30-year span. So, and when it comes to ongoing maintenance, just to touch base on that, during the winter, the playground has none. The only thing that needs to have anything is just simply the splash pad, because, of course, just like anything with water and pipes, you want to have that flushed out appropriately, so that way we don't break anything.
Mr. Kramer?
My question goes towards the liability insurance. Is this going to bring up our liability if we've got these tall 8-foot ramps or climbing walls? Is that going to add to the city's liability insurance, or?
I'm sure it will. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be highly impactful, but I've got to call in to Bill Barnes, our insurance agent, to talk about this.
Okay.
Mr. Jopek?
I was just going to ask, speaking to Tom's comment about just the ADA compliance, has Lee Recreation, and you mentioned something about there being activities that would be available to children with special needs. Has Lee Recreation kind of mentioned anything about like what all activities would be available to those special needs that we want to meet within our community?
So the term for this playground is called all-inclusive, simply because anyone with a walker, wheelchair, or any kind of capability can get to all features. Now, the climbing piece, of course, goes according to their capability, but specifically if someone can not walk, the zip line, swings, the electronic feature that I was talking about, and again, depending on the age and ability, they could play in the 2 to 5 area. As far as something specifically that, okay, a wheelchair can roll up onto and be part of a swing, there is nothing specifically to that effect. But it is considered an all-inclusive playground because kids can get everywhere all throughout the playground. Thank you. Yep, good question.
I think Patrick had something.
Yeah, Brandon, I just want to tell you, this is really cool. I've been in other towns. It's my 5th community, and I've never seen anything like this. So I want to thank you for everything that you've done here. You're not getting paid for any of this. This is you doing it, out of you and Kiwanis doing it because you want to do it, and that is really cool, and I appreciate it. We do have questions. I know you've been getting a little bit of grilling here, but one of the questions I had, Kurt Johnson, he and I have been talking about this, and we just want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so please don't take it personally or anything like that. But will we need to have an attendant out there? I know we had talked about that, and I know Kurt had found something, so I don't know what you found.
So it goes along with the changes. As long as we are under 50,000 gallons, we're
It's
okay.
the 50,000?
Yep, that's the number.
That's the big part, okay.
Yep.
So,
And one additional thing, I remember
go ahead.
the inspections. There could be, Kurt had asked about if there was any type of annual inspections and things like that. And speaking with Cliff from KSW, who was also a part of another splash pad that was put in about 3 years ago, exact same flow-through system and a similar playground. There isn't an annual inspection or anything like that comes along with this. Could there be 3, 4, or 5 years on our own? Absolutely. But as far as an annual inspection or fee, that could then incur to the city, none that they're aware of.
Okay, and that's the other thing that attendant, and I'd also seen something about a fence, but I'm guessing that follows the 50,000 gallons as well.
Correct.
So there are questions as far as the gallons per minute and what impact this will have on the water, and I'd really like to hear what Kurt has to think, if you don't mind. Kurt, do you have a second?
Yeah, like Brandon said, we kind of had some discussions about this, and 100 gallons a minute in our water supply that we supply right now is a lot of water. But we are looking at a future well 9 coming along here in the next couple of years, hopefully. 7 and 8, possibly treatment down the road, and we won't have a water capacity issue. But the reason I'm not concerned about the 100 gallons a minute right now is this splash pad might not go till next year, or probably not going to go till next year. And I've been in talks with the administrator and the finance director of getting some quotes for VFDs down at our reservoir, which I have a temporary one down there right now, and well 6 was off, so we could pump more water out of there. If I can get permanent VFDs down there, I can pump a few more 100 gallons out, and then I don't have an issue. So whether we get it in this year's budget, if there's money, which I don't think there is, we're going to be looking at next year's budget and get it in before this splash pad goes in. So that's my concern with the water. And I guess while I'm up here, I just want to note that, you know, there may be, I mean, I've been in contact with the Department of Health, who is the agent for the Department of Agriculture. I was told that we can't discharge in the boom lake. So I guess we got to get on the same page here. Now, if the DNR does go through and allow a permit, more power to the city and more power to Brandon or the engineers to get that. If we cannot obtain that, there will be a lift station they have to go in. And I just want everybody to know that along with the water fees that were showed, there's going to be sewer charge fees, and those are a lot more expensive. So just going by the gallons per year that they have for 2.5 million gallons that the splash pad could use for a whole season, we could be looking at $25,000 to $30,000 in sewer fees. And that doesn't include what the lift station would cost to put in. So just so it's out there and everybody knows if this flow-through system doesn't go through. And I just, last thing, there were some code changes and regulation changes that Brandon pointed that I brought to everybody's attention. I've also speaking to the Oneida County Health Department, who is the agent for the Department of Agriculture. I got a whole list of stuff that they say is required. So I think between whoever CRS is talking to or their engineers are talking to and who I've been talking to, who is the agent for regulating all this with the inspections and the fees, which they say are required, I think everybody needs to talk and get on the same page. Absolutely. So we know exactly what's required, because it sounds like there's too many things going on without everybody communicating together. So that's all I got. That's all I got.
Appreciate it, Kurt. Thank you. But I don't see this as something we can't work through. I think Kurt has hit the nail on the head. We need to get on the same page and make sure everybody has a complete and agreed understanding of what we're looking to do. But again, this shouldn't take away from anything that you've done, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep, and we'll continue to keep working with Kurt and Brian with CRS, who talked to the Department of Ag. He's also reached out to his contact that had the same concern, so that way they are touching base to make sure that what he's being told from the State Department, Department of Ag, from the actual specialist, matches up with what her concerns are, because there's a lot of mix as far as the flow through versus the recirculation, and so that's kind of mixed. But we're 100% going to be having those conversations, so without a doubt. Thank you, Mayor, or thank you, Patrick.
That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments? Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on to 9C, which is a presentation by Art Start regarding a Hodag Park Bench public art installation.
That's a D.
Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. You guys must be tired. Yeah, I gotta shake it out a little bit.
Never too tired to talk about benches.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Some new faces. My name is Ashley McLaughlin, Program and Operations Director at Art Start. I am also the Art Start representative for the City of Rhinelander Public Art Commission. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am here to talk about the sculpture titled Together. And I feel like I need to just let you guys know that this is a huge collaborative community project that we're involved in. It's probably not the first time, hopefully not the first time you've heard us talk about ONOP, the One Nation, One Project, which is in partnership with the National League of Cities, the World Health Organization, the Milken Institute for School of Public Health, the Center for Arts and Medicine, community health providers, Adventureland, Apollo, YBCA, and the Rockwell Group. It's also a bunch of community organizations gathering together. We have ArtStart, NAMI, NAF, Rhinelander Area Food Pantry, Oneida County ADRC, Oneida County Health Department, Oneida County Department of Social Services, the Human Service Center, you guys, the City of Rhinelander, Marshfield Clinic, AmeriCorps, Rhinelander District Library. We have parents, we have Over It, we have senior representatives, and many others involved in these conversations. Getting back to the sculpture, which we're here to talk about today, titled Together. If you remember when the Over It group and ArtStart first started presenting to you, the youth from Over It didn't feel like they were connected to the community and didn't feel like they had a safe place and like they belonged. After many, many conversations, ArtStart has learned that we have a challenge in our community, a public mental health crisis, actually. ArtStart has learned, or many of our community members of all ages are lacking connection. Community members are feeling socially isolated and alone. I mean, we all know about winters up here, except for this last one, how long they can be. We live in a rural community. We have lack of resources, lack of transportation to get to events. We have events that aren't tailored to all people. Our community could, work a little bit more on inclusivity, which we talked about, or you guys just talked about. So it's no surprise. There are so many factors that lead into these feelings of loneliness, big things that many great organizations in our community have identified and are working very hard to try and change. I could go down a path and explain what I know, but I won't do that today. Instead, I encourage you to join the community conversations and know the changes we need to make to conquer social isolation in our community will take some significant time, planning, experimentation, and a big culture shift in our community and our nation. We can't fix all these reasons for these feelings of loneliness today, but we can begin to talk about social isolation and mental health, which will lead to the culture shift. That is what we are hoping to begin with this sculpture in our community. The sculpture is designed to be a spectacle and bring people together. It's a bench. They're going to be sitting right next to each other. Listen to stories of community members to gain understanding or connect through the bone induction technology, and reflect on social isolation. It's a sculpture that's very reflective, and they're going to be sitting on the bench looking at the lake and the reflection. So let's get into the actual sculpture a little bit more. Tonight you have an approved public art application recommended by the Rhinelander Public Art Commission. The commissioners and I met with the artist several times since December to discuss the proposal and suggest amendments until it met the screening criteria that City Council put into place for the public art policy. It meets our standard for public art best practices. It's a strong application, and it is ready for you to decide on. The mirrored sculpture bench is proposed to be placed under the awning at the Hodag Park Beach House. The sculpture bench foam is being professionally fabricated and will be transported to be tiled on site by ArtStart's contracted artists, Witt and Norma, who you heard from earlier today. The sculpture bench includes the bone induction technology, which vibrates your ear bones. Anyone who sits on the bench will hear a recording of community members talking about social isolation. These sound recordings are being captured through the printmaking workshops, which Witt talked about, and Norma and him are holding those throughout our community. The bone induction piece of the sculpture is fabricated by Upstream's Exhibits in St. Paul, Minnesota. The artists Witt and Norma will be coordinating and installing the piece on site, adding the mirror tiles and installing mirrored temporary signs along the Hodag Park walking path. This sculpture will be fully paid for by ArtStart through the ONOP project. There is also a $1,000 repair budget set aside. Any repairs needed will be coordinated by ArtStart with either WIT, Norma, or Upstream exhibits. What is being asked of the City of Rhinelander? ArtStart asks that we are allowed to place it in the proposed location and give it to the City of Rhinelander for a minimum of 1 year, but ideally until the skate park is constructed. On July 27th, 2024, the sculpture will be completed, and hopefully we will be celebrating as part of the Arts for Everybody campaign. You may recall a few months ago, I put an application in front of you for the Arts for Everybody event at Hodag Park, taking over the band shell and space between it and the beach house. Our mapmakers organizations, which I mentioned earlier, will be there to help us present a day of arts and health. This is part of the Arts for Everybody campaign happening throughout the country. Nationally, on July 27, 2024, in big cities and rural counties, hundreds of actors, muralists, poets, folk dancers, circus clowns, farmers, flower artists, skaters, cooks, architects, DJs, puppeteers, nurses, mariachi players, bamboo weavers, and more will create new works that show the world where they come from. The result will be a celebration of American pluralism, of unity through diversity. It will be an outpouring of local joy, and Rhinelander would like to be in that celebration too. The Arts for Everybody campaign event will do more than entertain, inspire, and galvanize. It marks a breakthrough moment in the relationship between the arts and health in America. So I hope you all had a chance to review the application. If you do have any questions, I'm here, and if I can't answer those questions, the artists are here too.
Yeah, I have a couple. So, you know, you stated that there's no cost to the city up front. This is something you guys are looking to fundraise, install, plus $1,000 maintenance budget that you guys are holding. What's the expected shelf life of this art piece? Is this something we could expect to last 1, 5, 10 years?
We're saying 1.
Okay.
We're building it to last much longer.
Okay, so 1,000 years, 15, or are we more like
Well,
5
I mean,
to 10?
So
hopefully?
there's the foam core, and then the artists are putting concrete over the foam core, and then they are mounting the mirrored tiles to that. And these mirrored tiles are ones, I know that vandalism is probably a concern. These tiles are going to be sealed as well.
Okay.
So vandalism, we should be able to just wash it off. Same with the ceiling tiles. So we're building it like it's gonna stay.
Is there any kind of, like come winter, is it expected to move this to inside, or is this could
Nope.
stay out year round?
It's an outdoor sculptural piece.
So pretty much it's no different than another bench the city owns, minus it's free of charge to the city.
It's $35,000.
Yeah, well, expensive bench.
Yeah, I mean, it is an expensive and beautiful bench, and yeah. Yes.
I know Jeremy's not here, but will this require electricity for the bone induction? How does that work? Is it wired in? I know that in the, it stated that we could drill through the floor to get electricity to, do we know what the amount that would be? Is it how much electricity? Is it lighted?
There's 2 very simple units that are powered through it. It's just essentially like a playback unit that you would have, like a Bluetooth speaker. So there's like 2 Bluetooth speakers that come up through the bottom, and it's going to be wired in, and it will be underneath the sculpture, so you won't even be able to see it. Jeremy, yeah, we did a walkthrough a couple weeks ago and walked through all the problems with, and structurally the structure has a beam, not a beam, but a wall that goes all the way across it that will hold the load. Yeah, and the lighting will be wired from the existing wiring up there. So no additional electrical outlets.
Mr. Barnett?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-42.
Well, we're still in presentation.
Oh, we're still in
technically,
presentation?
Yeah, so,
Oh,
yeah, that
okay.
comes up later in new business.
Okay.
So, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, just in view of the fact that this is or should be considered a historic building, if the art were to be removed after 1 year or 15 years or whatever, would there be damage to the building in the process?
Yeah, the ceiling is wooden beadboard with about 1,000 coats of paint. So it's nothing that's not repairable.
The ceiling, yes, like the mayor said, it's just covered with paint, but these are going to be on plywood, so it will be screwed in, so the panels can be removed. The bench itself will sit, it's a piece of concrete. It does weigh quite a bit, but can be removed, and there'll be a simple hole from the bottom for the wiring. That will be the only alteration to this space.
The other question I had is, I'm trying to picture those reflective tiles on a smooth surface. How do you do that so that there aren't any points sticking out for people to get caught on?
I know that's a concern too, but we're going to be using round glass tiles, so they're not with pointed. I've talked to a lot of mosaic artists and got a little bit of a consult on that, and you know, mirrored usually means like the broken glass, but we're going to be using circular pieces that won't have a hard edge.
Thank you.
Mr. Barnett?
Just to touch back on what you had just told me, we have introduction of new business, which holds all of these, then communications, and then future agenda items. Where does it say that there's a...
Installation, yeah, it'd be a 13D.
Well, we can still make a motion and still discuss it. So my motion is to accept the resolution of 2024, where did it go now? 42, approving the installation of a public art piece at the beach house at Hodag Park. If I can get a second, we can continue with the discussion.
Joe Peck, second.
Okay, there's a motion second on any presentations.
Just as a point of clarification here, if we're going to rearrange the agenda, we need to agree to rearrange the agenda. Is that correct?
You'd
just
have
want
to
to clarify that to the attorney.
Yeah, first of all, you'd have to amend the agenda, because the agenda have this item later on in the agenda as an action item. But if you move to amend the agenda, which you as the board or as a council have the right to do, but you have to do that first.
D. Action item is 13D.
We have so is that motion not valid until we amend the agenda?
The chair could rule the motion out of order if he wishes. If he doesn't rule it out of order and no one complains, of course, no harm, no foul, but yes.
I see where I made my error. Number 9 it is under C for discussion, so I do apologize. I thought we were discussing it under introduction of new business, so I apologize.
Mr. Joe Peck?
Can I go back to discussion now, or?
So there's technically a motion and a second that doesn't follow Robert's rules, correct, Steve? Okay, so out of order, moving on. So we still need a presentation where we could ask questions to the presenter. Mr. Joe Peck.
Have there, and this is, I'm just asking, because I spend most of my time chasing my 3 children into the water rather than up in this area. Is this used a lot by the community for picnics, you know, those kind of gatherings? I want to say I'm 100% like in favor. I'm not, I just want to consider potential questions we might receive in the future about kind of handing this space off. Is there any consideration for alternative seating, those kind of things?
There currently is a broken picnic table in that spot. So.
True. And Austin, you might be able to speak to more. I mean, is that rented out often for private events?
No, it's not rented out often.
Boom. Mr. Kramer? Or I don't know if, no, okay. Any other discussion regarding the presentation? Ms. Michalowski?
So, thank you, Ashley. This has been great, and Norma and Whit. Since there's a new person on this council that may not know, I am the city representative for this One Nation, One project. So we've been working on this nearly 2 years now. And I'm excited that we're finally to this stage where we're actually getting some momentum and able to present to the city, because it feels like we were just spinning our wheels for a long time, just trying to organize and create and figure things out. So I am 100% obviously for this. But one thing that I don't think was necessarily mentioned was all the benefits that this will create with social cohesion, you know, between arts and health, and how much that improves the overall health of the city and the people that live within the city and that use this. Especially since COVID, we have an increase in mental health issues, not only in our community, but throughout the whole country and world, to be honest. But I think that this is a really great way for our community to be rallying around that topic. And I really am proud to be part of this project. So I obviously am all for this, so thank you.
Yeah, and I did pass out the most recent publication from the Oneida County Health Department on mental health. So that was done 2022 to 2023. So interesting statistics on there.
Mr. Anderson?
I had another question about those signs along the path, whatever you call them. Are they, well, who decides what goes on those signs? And will they be changed from time to time?
Those are not going to be permanent. They won't be concreted in or anything. Those are really intentionally going to be placed for the July 27th event. And those signs are going to have sayings from our community members. So what they printed at the print shops will also be on the signs.
And then
they'll be removed, and maybe someday we will use them in a different capacity in our community.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Oh, yeah. Ashley, your turn. This is very cool. This is very, very cool. I said it to Brandon, so I want to make sure I said it to you too. This is very cool. Thank you for Art Start and the artists. Fantastic. I would love to see this as something that spurs on a little more conversation about the use of the underutilized asset of the beach house. So thank you for doing this. One question I do have, though, will there be any signs that will be placed around the bench explaining what's going on? I know you said QR codes, but will there be, for somebody who may not have a phone?
We have talked about that, and we do feel like it is needed. So
I agree, but thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, number 10, 11, and 12 do not apply for this meeting. Moving on to 13, which is introduction of new business. 13A, discuss and/or action approving common council meeting minutes from April 8 and April 16th.
Holt, I'll make a motion to approve the common council meeting minutes from April 8th, 2024 and April 16th, 2024.
Anderson, second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? Those who abstain? Motion passes. Moving on to B, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-40 regarding a fee schedule regarding emergency medical services. Refer to our fire chief.
Good evening. So as part of the strategic planning, if I could say it right, we identified some key pieces of increasing or looking at our cost recovery, how we do cost recovery and our fees and our schedules and our manning, and how it's affecting us currently in our positions. So we did a survey. We had EMMC, who you guys have known as LifeQuest in the past, they're now EMMC, do a rate survey for our ambulance services, and we found that we fell quite a bit behind in some of our rates with our ambulance services, and we've kind of been seeing it in our operations budget. So we're requesting a raise on most of these services. You'll see more hefty raises to the non-residents as opposed to residents. I've said in the past, and I'll keep it at that, we want to keep the residents as low as we possibly can. The non-residents, it's kind of typical for entities like us to raise the fees because it's harder for us to get billing to them and get billing back from them. So it takes more time from us. So we're requesting this increase.
So you're looking to bring it in line with kind of industry standard?
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion?
Holt, I'll make a motion to approve proposed resolution 2024-40, approving the proposed adjustments to the schedule of fees charged by the city of Rhinelander for emergency medical services.
Joe Peck, second.
Motion second, any discussion? Mr. Barnett?
I have concerns about people who aren't going to be able to afford the services. Not saying that we don't need to raise the fees, but what are options for those that may really need an ambulance but decide not to get one because there's no way they're ever going to be able to pay it?
Yeah, normally your insurance pays these ambulance fees for those who aren't insured. Our cost, it goes into a TRIP program, which goes towards their taxes and gets paid back in their taxes. That's after we go after the fees, and we just we can't get them. But that's on our company, our billing company, that takes care of all that. That's why we pay them. 12%, I believe, is what we pay them on what our fees are.
Ms. Michalowski?
Doesn't medical assistance pay for ambulance rides?
Yes, medical assistance will help with that.
That's what
Correct,
I thought.
yes,
So
thank you.
those are for, folks that can't afford a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I just know
Thanks,
that
Gary.
once this gets out, that people are going to say, they're just not going to be able to afford to call an ambulance and
Yeah.
all that. So I just want to make sure that some knowledge about that is out there, so that when people do start panicking, which they will,
Yeah.
there is some information for them out there somewhere.
Yeah, this is a cost of services. This is cost recovery. This is not revenues for us. This is not a revenue generator. This is cost recovery.
Not seeing any other discussion. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Carrie McLowski. David
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton. Bob Luder.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 13C, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-41. Looks like one of our estimated expenses came in under budget. Thus, we have some surplus, and Parks Department is requesting that we use that for signage for Hill Creek and public walking.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, a little bit of trail building, a little bit of signage for the Hill Creek property.
Holt, I will make a motion to approve proposed resolution 2024-41, approving the request from the Rhinelander Parks Department to reallocate $19,530 in the American Rescue Plan Act funds for trail building and signage at the city-owned Hill Creek property.
Anderson, second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski.
Aye.
Bob Luder.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 13D, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-42. I'm going to yield to Mr. Barnett.
Again, I apologize for not understanding the order of the agenda tonight. Three presentations, almost 8 o'clock. I thought we were farther down the agenda, to be honest with you. So, where are we? Oh, yeah, okay. So I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-42, approving the installation of a public art piece at the beach house at Hodag Park.
Michalowski, second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Bob Luder.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 13E, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-43. Their contract was up for renewal. I believe we looked at the fees and roughly cut it in half.
That's exactly what it is, and they've made some improvements to Stafford Field. Talked to Jeremy, the Parks Director, and he saw no problem with that amount.
Joe Peck moved to approve resolution number 2024-43, approving an agreement with Hodag Diamond Club for the use of Stafford Field.
Hold second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
just
Luder?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm just curious if it's possible that we could maybe take a look at the contract that we signed for Little League 2 years ago They spent roughly $85,000 to improve the fields that they're using, that they're paying usage fees on as well. And if we could get those contracts like in the same calendar year, you know, maybe that might be worth something looking into.
I'm open to that.
I have no issue with that if that's what council's direction is.
So regarding the motion on the floor, there's a motion and second. Any more discussion on said motion? No. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Luke Kramer. Aye. David Holt.
Aye.
Bob Luter.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett. Aye. Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Leanne Felton. Aye. Carrie McLowski.
So, and this is kind of a question for Steve. Bob brought up a point. Would it be appropriate for a motion to have us look at that contract and bring back possible solutions to council?
Well, you can look at it, but if the contract is in place, unless both parties agree to change the contract, you're stuck with the contract for the contract term. I think the term is a multi-year contract.
I want to say 3 years remaining.
Yeah, so, but there's no reason that if the Little League and the city want to have a meeting to discuss modifying the contract, that can be done.
Okay. But I mean, we don't need technically a motion at this point. So-
No, because you don't have the approval of the Little League and you don't. So I think you can certainly instruct the administrator to go make the contacts, but beyond that, you really can't do much more right now.
I don't know, if Mr. Luter, if you want to make said motion to,
We don't need a motion.
don't
Just
need it,
tell-
but
tell
It's not on the agenda.
good point, so. Okay, moving on to F, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-44, refer to our city administrator.
Oh, thank you. So this is basically just accepting the strategic plan from Northspan as presented. So this becomes part of what we focus on while we do our work. So that timeline that they have, this is something we'll look to put in place. I do not want this to be a, hey, wasn't that great, we put it on a shelf. That's not going to work. We're going to actively utilize this. Staff will, and hopefully council as well. So,
Michalowski, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-44, accepting the City of Rhinelander's strategic plan as prepared and submitted by Northspan.
Hold second.
Motion second, any discussion on the motion? Mr. Anderson?
There's a lot in that thing, and I think it's a lot that will be useful to us if, like Patrick says, we don't just receive it and put it on the shelf. So I hope we'll be finding ideas and guidance in it from month to month here as we go along.
Any other discussion? Not seeing, clerk, please take the roll call.
David Holt.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Luke Kramer. Aye. Carrie McLowski.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Bob Luter.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Okay, motion is approved. 13G, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2024-45, I refer to Austin.
All right, so this is, every year we have to approve the amended contract with the state of Wisconsin to do our weights and measures inspection program. So as you can see in this one, the total cost will be $7,500. Looking back to what it was last year, we approved it at $6,750, so there is an increase of, don't make me do math, but $750, I think. Yeah, that's it.
So this question would be more to Patrick. How do we plan on, from a budget point of view, working with this?
I believe it was budgeted already, maybe not the $7,500 level, but we can find $750, I believe.
Cool.
So,
Mr. Jopek?
Can I just ask, for the sake of wanting to know, what's the cause for increasing the rate? Do they tell us why, or is it just?
I assume it's just inflation or whatever they want to charge. We have to go through them, so they can kind of charge however much they want. But we are able to, and we do recoup a lot of that cost when we get our weights and measures permits through all of the businesses in the city of Rhinelander.
Well, this also goes for kind of like L&M, farm and fleet, that kind of stuff. So we're also expanding the quantity that they have to do. So part of the growth of the city, this is also a growth in this category too.
Yep, especially for like larger big box stores like that, they have to get a lot of weights and measures, and same with gas stations as well.
So there's motion second, and the other discussion?
Did we have a motion?
You were correct, so entertaining whatever action by the body.
Holt, I will make a motion to approve proposed resolution 2024-45, approving, authorizing, and directing the mayor to sign a contract amendment with the State of Wisconsin Weights and Measures Inspection Program.
Joe Peck, second.
Okay, any other discussion with the motion and second? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Bob Luter.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 13H, discuss and/or action the use of a consent agenda. This was tabled to this meeting by the last council before we changed hands. The recommendation by administration would to have the bills and claims, meeting minutes, reports, and communication on consent as a starting point. Mr. Holt?
So with things like the bills and claims, as long as you ensure that you approve a consent agenda each time with a full roll call vote, you can have those.
Correct.
So,
And one of the beauties of a consent agenda is any member of this body could remove any of those items at the beginning if they choose. Mr. Anderson?
What were the three things you just mentioned?
So any communications that are given to us to give to you guys, the reports by departments, the minutes from all the departments that we approve or accept, and then the bills and claims submitted by Wendy every month.
And is that correct that if any of those items require a roll call, then we have to approve the consent agenda by roll call?
My concept is just do all the consent by roll call in general.
I'm not sure it's necessary, but it probably doesn't hurt anything. I don't see, for instance, how that would have affected tonight's agenda at all, really. So it won't do us any good every meeting, but maybe sometimes it will.
True. Mr. Holt?
So I've seen the consent agenda come and go and come and go, and be used and misused and become a point of contention in the past. I can't imagine that would happen. Well, I can't imagine, but I don't want to imagine that would happen with this council. But so sort of the housekeeping items can be placed on that, and then if you have, say, 5 very housekeeping pro forma meeting minutes, department reports, et cetera, you can put that on. But honestly, I mean, Gerald's absolutely right. There were some meetings that lasted a really long time, and in fact, one that lasted past midnight. We had to come back in to reauthorize an extension for ourselves to go back and continue business. We don't have that problem now. And so I don't necessarily have a dog in this fight in terms of which way I would want to go, just to give some perspective that it seems kind of a little bit irrelevant, as Gerald is probably thinking, because our meetings aren't very contentious, they aren't problematic in ways that they've been in the past. But also, it is true that anybody on council can pull one or all the items off of any consent agenda at any time. So that's the part of it in the past where I say some of them were contentious or just simply used in that manner or misused in that manner. So, I mean, if we've got a really long agenda, but it has a lot of things that don't need discussion, because there are some things that, yes, we know we're going to pass it 8-0, but it still needs to be spoken. It needs to be discussed for the public consumption. They need to know the information, right? Even though the vote itself. So it's not necessarily about whether or not we're going to approve something. It's about informing the public.
True. Mr. Jopek?
Around the time we, and I think I may have been the one that introduced the idea. So sorry, Dave. No. we had just done like the conclusion of the Oneida Street stuff, and Mark was up here for probably, I think we had 17 items, and it was just him talking through those. So for the context of why I kind of suggested is I was just wondering, like, is it possible to just have Mark come up, explain the whole, broad picture of all of that was going on, and then allow for a consent agenda where we're not having to step by step, $500 here, $50,000 here, to kind of tie all that up. So it's not I get that we don't use it very frequently, but I think it was in that context that it was kind of like, this is a meeting that probably went longer than it needed to because Mark came up here. None of us asked any questions. He was thorough, kind of explained stuff to us, then we kind of moved on. So I guess my question would be, with a consent agenda, say that happens again, right? We have 15 items, they're all engineering. They all have to do with Oneida Street. Again, we decide to repave it this year. Would he be able to come up and speak to that before we approve the consent agenda, or is that going to be something we would still have to remove? Because I do think Mark's input for the public consumption is good, and I don't want to remove that from the equation. And so I guess that's the question I have.
I personally wouldn't recommend having it included. I would have that separate, because what the point of a consent is, it's just we go right pretty much to a motion and a vote. If you want to have a discussion about one of the point items, it should be removed and discussed. Due to it being change orders and design of scope and stuff that affects vast majority of the people in the community, I would think we should keep that separate.
Yeah, and in this case, it was like pay orders. Like they'd already done the work, and so it was just pay approval.
So maybe pay orders might be something to put on consent. So
yeah, and I guess that's the conversation that needs to be had is, it was kind of tedious. At the same time, it's really nice to hear Mark explain that stuff because I know nothing about that stuff. So, so that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
True. Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mr. Joe Peck down there. I think that a consent agendas, like Gerald said, it's not going to be used every meeting or necessary needed for every meeting. But yeah, some of those, although Mark tells a very riveting story when he is presenting, has me on the edge of my seat. Some of those can get rather wordy and long, and we if you read the agendas and talk to the people that are doing the projects and everything, as council people pretty much know the gist of it anyway. And if one of our constituents asks us to take it off the consent agenda, we can always do that. You can also get the answers for your constituents who may say, hey, I really wanted to know more about that. That was on the consent agenda. We can bring that to them as well. So I'm all in favor of utilizing the consent agenda whenever we can.
Mr. Anderson?
I particularly like Mr. Holt's point about the fact that the discussion is partly for us, but it's partly for the public. And since I wasn't strong on it before, I think that pushes me over the line to vote against it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just one more thing on that. We've had so many short meetings this year. This is the only long one probably in a year and a half by my memory. So it's not like we really have to try hard to shorten our meetings.
I've been trying to make them longer, Mr. Anderson. I swear I have. Some of the agendas last year were huge.
Mr. Holt?
If you would like me to make the meetings longer, that is one of my specialities. Okay. I had a procedural question for our city attorney. So outside of the use of a consent agenda, is it appropriate, or do we even have the ability to approve multiple agenda items within one motion? Because a lot of those consent agendas, it would be the consent agenda, but it would encompass A, B, C, D. So I was just curious if separating into a consent agenda is sort of even irrelevant at that point, because if we had, for example, the change orders where Mark has described all of the change orders and their necessity at once, But then we have to go and individually motion each one. Is there, can you do it in bulk or not?
Well, yeah, your real problem is this. The answer is sure. You could have a 4-part motion that had 4 different pay orders, but if you don't do it as a consent agenda, then you don't have the right to pull it out. So you'd have to vote for the 4 of them up or down. Whereas if you put them in a consent agenda, you have the right to pull them out individually. So I would strongly recommend you not just bundle things because they look alike. I'd put it on the consent agenda and then pull them out if you want to pull them out, because then you could take them out 1 at a time, 2 at a time, however you wanted to do it. But once you put them into a bundle, you're voting on that, then you'd have to amend the resolution. It would be a lot harder. If that answers your question.
Mr. Jopek?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So we're looking for a direction of any kind from the body.
You need a motion?
Correct.
Okay.
Kramer, I'm in agreement with the use of consent agenda for council meetings and agendas.
Barnett, second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion on the motion? Is that a Mr. Luter or no? Okay. With that, well, it's not a resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those who abstain, those who or vote nay. So Mr. Anderson, just to be clear, is voting nay or abstaining? So, okay, motion passes. Moving on to 13I, discuss and/or action of proposed playground splash pad concept. Mr. Jopek?
Just need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. Jopek, motion to approve moving forward with the playground splash pad concept.
Kramer, second.
okay, motion second. Any discussion? Mr. Barnett?
Like I said, I'm all for the playground and splash pad going forward, but I still think getting all this done before our skate park is an injustice to those kids that were working so hard to help. But if the council sees that this is necessary, then I will not stand in the way of doing this, but I hope that we can make a more concerted effort to move even faster with things that our kids truly, truly need.
Okay, Ms. Michalowski?
I'm all for this. I understand where Tom's coming from. However, I'd just like to remind him that we are in the process of getting a skate park. We have just approved a design firm to come up with the design, and we are steadily progressing that way, so.
Yep, Mr. Barnett.
I do understand that. You know I do, because I go to the meetings and all that. But my main point was that that's not how the kids see it. They say, we've been working our butts off for 3 years, and all of a sudden now we're getting a playground splash pad, but we don't even have, groundbreaking for a skate park. Obviously, there's a lot of effort and talent going into getting the skate park to be done right, but I'm more concerned about the perception. As I tell a lot of people in this town, perception is everything. And that perception that's going to go out right now is that, once again, the city went ahead and approved a big splash pad and very beautiful playground, which is great. I'm all for that. But it's going to look like a slap in the face, and that's my concern.
Mr. Jopek?
And I get that as well, and I just want to speak to that seeing these students on a daily basis, that is something, I guess I see less of them as they get older, but we have actively put money forward to it. We put our money where our mouth is. We're dedicated to the project. It will move forward. This is a privately funded gesture by Kiwanis that I think they're two separate entities, and I think we're being equally supportive to both. And I think public perception, hopefully somebody is out there watching this video and hears us saying that we are fully in support of both of these. And we would probably, it'd be a bad idea to ignore what Kiwanis is offering this community, while we also push forward for Over It and for those students that definitely need the skate park.
Mr. Holt?
Yeah, as a point of clarification, they've been, the first time that the skate park came up was actually 5 years ago. And I don't say that to negate anything anybody else has said, but I do think, and I agree with both Stephen and Tom, that it's worth it to reiterate in our meetings because we don't always have updates on the skate park. That, and Carrie has given us updates multiple times, that it is being worked on. But yes, it has been 5 years that since Over It started that process of trying to push forward.
Okay, so there was a motion and second. Any other discussion on the motion? Yep, not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Carrie McLowski.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Luke Kramer.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Bob Luder.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 13J, discuss and/or action status update from the city attorney regarding the transfer of RH 34-2. Steve?
Yeah, we had substantial impact this week. In fact, I met with the title company earlier this week, and they're looking at the endorsement that I talked about. I also was able to locate the party we've been looking for, and we may have a shortcut. And she was here today. Austin can verify that. So we're moving quite rapidly right now.
Okay. Any discussion or questions for our attorney? Okay, not seeing. You're not looking for any action at this time, correct?
No.
Okay. So moving on to number 14, communications. I will refer to our city administrator.
I already talked about them, but yeah, those are all in your packet. The WisDOT grant, the flyer, and yeah, so everything's in your packet there.
Okay. Any questions or discussion by council regarding communications, bullet point A, B, C? Okay, not seeing. Moving on to 15, future agenda items. Anything anyone would like to request? So the only thing I would like to request is we look at the ordinance, because it came to my attention that technically per topic, we have an ordinance in place saying each person can only speak twice. So that's something I'm hoping council will look at changing to allow more open dialogue versus a limit of 2 per topic. So Mr. Jopek?
Just broaching the subject of, in the future, can we talk about crosswalks up near the Walmart area from Woodland Terrace over? There's been multiple times I've been driving down there, and there's like a person standing in the middle of the roadway in the 4-lane. I just think even just a simple crosswalk or something, because there's a big population right across from there. A lot of people walk across it. So hopefully we can have a discussion about pedestrian safety, lights or something, so that we don't have an accident at some point.
True. Anything else for future agenda items? Okay, not seeing. Next regular council meeting is May 13th at 6 p.m. It is 8:18, meeting adjourned.